If you don't know what you want to say to somebody, there's no chance in hell they're going to know what you want to say to them.
Welcome to Leading Without the BS. Unfiltered, unapologetic, unstoppable performance.
This is going to be about cutting the confusion, building confidence by leading with clarity.
I love that we're going to spend some time on this today because right in front of my face when I'm working with leaders, I see them make these shifts as I'm working with them to literally cut the confusion and how it impacts them on so many different levels.
Yeah. And that clarity is so important. One of the things that I've said for as long as I can remember is, what does good look like? And so often it's not clear for people what good looks like. And so they're going, I want to do a good job. I don't know exactly what that means. And then they're frustrated. The manager's frustrated because perhaps they haven't said it. And so the person doesn't get there. And yeah, it's going to be a good discussion. I'm excited.
Yeah. We're glad you're with us today. I'm Kathy, CEO of Wingspan Peformance. And this is Ivan.
Hey, I'm Ivan. I'm vice president and an advisor as well. So.
All right. Really good.
Cool.
So jump in and tell me a little bit about what you, as you're preparing for today's episode, it's a big one, actually. Clarity and confidence.
Yeah.
Critical for how leaders are effective.
It is. And what hit me as I was thinking about this, getting ready for this conversation today, is that these things are so tightly coupled. And oftentimes people don't realize that they create confidence and clarity in themselves. And they do this to help create that in others as well, when they are really thoughtful on how they're sharing what good looks like, when they're descriptive in what the end result is. And so often people don't recognize how critical it is to slow down, to really make sure that they're being clear so that other people can go, okay, got it. I'm 90% locked into what you want. I can run off and deliver that.
Well, yeah, they're usually way on the other end of the stick. They're experienced when they start to put some attention on this. They're experiencing some pain, a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, because they've got these habits in autopilot. They've got these habits where it's fuzzy. So internally, definitely they're not feeling that confidence within themselves. And of course, that just amplifies as it cascades throughout the team that they're working with 360.
Yeah, it's awesome you talk about the autopilot piece of it, because I realize for as long as I can remember, I have done a bad job of this, because we get going fast, or especially when the pressure starts to ratchet up and I'm going in my head, I'm like, oh crap, I don't have time to do a 5-minute handoff with Joe or with Amy. I just want to flip this over to them in 10 seconds so that they can start moving. And then later on, I realized, man, I did such a bad job. I made so many assumptions that they would know what I know, because it's freaking obvious to me. Doesn't mean it's obvious to them. And that's so on my part.
Well, and because we're working with entrepreneurs and business leaders who act like entrepreneurs, people like you that have a lot of experience under your belt, the problem is exacerbated because any time that a person is operating in autopilot and they've got these tendencies around their language, making assumptions, which is usually tied with not asking questions, they're also unaware.
Yeah.
And so they're unknowingly creating these really costly issues within team performance, within their own reputation and credibility, completely by accident, of course. And so again, it's not until they're experiencing some of those symptoms, some of those painful experiences, where they now turn their attention and realize just how important it is to communicate with clarity, think with clarity. A lot of times leaders will focus on how they're communicating with other people, and really it's so critical that we create that clarity first internally. Of course, activating language, we'll get into that. Activating language is key for how we're thinking and talking to ourselves on our inside game, first and foremost.
Yeah, I had to laugh because I don't remember where or when I heard this. I distinctly remember, though, I don't know if I said it to somebody or someone said it to me, the phrase though that stuck with me was, if you don't know what you want to say to somebody, there's no chance in hell they're going to know what you want to say to them.
Or what you're saying.
What you're conveying, because if you haven't taken the time to get really clear, hey, this is the end goal, or this is the scope, or these are some key things to include or exclude. If you haven't had that internal time, if you haven't had that time to get clear internally, then it is highly unlikely you're just going to suddenly poof and rise to the occasion in the moment and deliver this stunning, crystal clear conversation with somebody when you haven't really been clear about it yourself.
Yeah. I was in a work session a couple weeks ago, and there is some stress, a great deal of stress, frustration, and some big money was tied to some of the performance of project managers and of course their managers. And as we were going through the work session, several of the senior leaders were using a bunch of language that in the Wingspan system, using a little bit of humor, we call them illegal words. And of course, bubble wrap, you'll hear about that later. They were using the you should and you need to, these habitual words. I think you should, you gotta, you need to.
We need to.
And so this language was coming from, right in front of me, 1, 2, 3, 4 senior leaders. And I said, time out. And I said to the PM, or I asked the PM, I said, from what you've heard so far, is this an encouragement or a requirement? And he said, sounds like an encouragement or a suggestion.
Yeah.
And I turned to the rest of them and I said, this is exactly the problem with all of this habitual bubble wrap language that creates confusion. Because now, first of all, your PM wants to kick ass, wants to do a fantastic job. He's taking advice from you, suggestions, encouragement, rather than the clarity that this is a requirement for him to do this. And now, and I'm telling you, the money part of this was big because the projects that they work on are huge. Not. So it really great example though around how this can start. It can seemingly be, I don't know, annoying or a lot of people will, when I prompt them on their language in the beginning, a lot of leaders will think, oh, well, that's just semantics.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. Not when you see how leaders around you, 360, are acting on what you're saying.
Which is where to connect the clarity back in with the confidence piece. When you're not clear, then most of the time the other person isn't confident because they're going to pick up very quickly on that fuzzy language and go, well, and because also when you combine that with people's somewhat, not completely, somewhat understandable reluctance to ask questions, then it becomes this real perfect storm of, I'm not really sure what it is they're telling me to do. I'm only marginally confident. And so I might propose things with less clarity, or I might propose things myself where I'm giving myself an out so that if the boss lady says, wait, that's not at all what I wanted. It's like, oh, okay, well, I was just spitballing, and so now it just gets worse. That those waves continue to ripple through the whole project, the whole program, the whole team.
Well, I've been with so many teams in their real world work sessions where, again, leaders who are responsible for multi-million-dollar P&Ls, like in 6-7 figures.
Yeah.
And or at least 7-8 figures, I'll say. And up. And they're that senior leader is in the habit of, I think we should, or we need to. Yeah. And I literally am watching the leaders around them turn to each other like, was that decided?
Yeah.
Are we doing that?
Yeah. And also, like, who's got what?
And
we need to, okay, well,
when did this get decided? So now, and you've got 500, teams of 500 to 1,000 and more acting on what this leader is saying, making decisions. And so they're not confident. Yeah. Certainly there's additional hesitation because a senior most leader doesn't sound confident. It brings up a whole mass issue with productivity and performance.
Yeah. So let's jump into a few things that people can do to start to understand better what is actually happening, for them, some tripwires for them that have to hear themselves say something or someone else say something that they can begin to go, oh, hey, wait a minute, that's getting into some of the illegal language space. They may not be clear. I'm certainly not clear. And so how to jump into that?
Yeah.
One thing that Kathy's already hit on that's important for everybody to catch is that illegal language. So if you're using phrases like, I think, we need to, we should,
I think, I feel, I believe. Those are, and I think you're going to be shocked at how difficult it is to take this out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are key. Those are
believe.
key because it's not a clear directive. It's not a do this. It's also not a lot of times, and I know you've seen this, I have a leader who's got a $185 million program. He has now 285 days left to finish and check the block on this massive program. And he's realizing how much we need to is kicking himself and the team right in the ass. And so if you hear that, it's a great spot to go, hold on, how much is that a directive? And how much is this a suggestion? Because a lot of times those senior leaders want to have input, they want to help, only they'll suggest without making it clear that it is an idea, that it can be modified or even discarded by the team.
Also, $185 million project. How many team members directly working on it with him?
Oh, golly. I want to say his direct team is in the 12-ish.
Yeah.
And then there's other people ancillary, of course.
So double whammy. We. Who the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
We, who?
Yeah.
And then we need to, we are for sure.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, the problem is, so it's the habit of it.
Yeah.
And so for sure, one of the places for you to put some attention so that you can create clarity and right on the heels of that confidence comes is to absolutely start to remove the we, for sure. We need to, should, have to. That's language that, again, we call illegal words. Because when you're using that language, you're instantly creating confusion accidentally. Yeah. And then you're slowing down progress. And again, the costs they compound over time.
Yeah. The way I like to think about it, both for myself when I'm speaking to our team members or when I'm helping leaders, is to make it crystal clear. This is a directive, or this is go back to military time. This is an order. Like, go do X. This isn't up for discussion.
This is non-negotiable.
Or negotiation. Yeah, exactly.
This has been decided.
Yep. Do X.
This is the decision.
Yep. Other language, though, where it's an idea, is to make sure that, because so often, again, I heard a phrase years ago, which I love, which is admirals or generals don't whisper. And so the idea is that when they speak, people take it as direct orders of, oh my gosh, she just said, well, what if we did this? And they just run with it. So if it's an idea, be sure to say out loud, hey, we could do this. That's just an idea. It's not necessarily that we do exactly that. And there's great questions to ask on the backside to make it clear that you're willing to have that idea messed with or scrambled up a bit and changed so that it's even better.
Yeah. And before we get to the questions piece, so let's make sure, definitely we're going to provide you a link to our download around bubble wrap. You're going to get that cheat sheet, because as soon as you start to remove all of what we call bubble wrap from your vocabulary, you're automatically going to increase your clarity. And here's what's really fantastic. And I've got a couple specific examples from last week, and this happens on a weekly basis. Is right in front of me, I've got one of these leaders, director. Again, like she's a badass. She's in the habit, though, of saying, I think. Well, now she doesn't sound confident.
No.
So the people that she's advising, the CEO, the CFO, the people that she's advising or making recommendations to, anytime you're introducing friction like that, hesitation, if you're not coming across clear and confident, they're not going to give you those approvals.
Yeah.
That you're searching for. So hold on. And then this is what happens, though, is I'll prompt remove, I think. And as soon as she changes her language, because it's accurate, she's like, yes. when I said, take out, I think, she's like, yes, I don't think, I know. And as soon as she said, I know, she just sat up straight, and she was just so much more. So number one, it's more accurate.
Yeah. For yourself.
For yourself.
For
and
yourself.
Then it's how she felt.
Yeah.
And how, of course, what she was conveying as soon as she changes this language. And I really, truly want for you, as you start to remove this bubble wrap language, I'm really excited for you to start feeling that shift that's possible.
Yeah.
It's immediately you feel more confident.
Yeah.
Because of the clarity.
And it's funny how often we like humans, everybody, I still find myself catching myself a bit sometimes, is when I'm not as clear for myself, I don't realize that I don't come across as confident. And as soon as I can tighten that up, I know exactly what I'm going for, exactly what I'm wanting to do. To your point, I'm going to deliver it in a much more authoritative way. People are going to get it. People are going to go, oh, he knows exactly what he's looking for, and they're going to be able to get up and they're going to be confident in running with it.
Well, here's the other thing too. It's not you're not only going to have that clarity and confidence when you know exactly what you're going to do. You can have that clarity and confidence when you know that you don't know.
Yeah.
So being able to say, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Or I am 30% on this. When you're clear that you're guessing.
Yeah.
Or when you're clear, hey, I'm making an assumption.
Spitballing.
I'm throwing what Heather says, like
Pasta.
Spitballing, and yeah.
Throwing pasta against the
throwing
wall.
pasta, see if it sticks. That's the one I use. And so when you're clear that you don't know, and that's where you're at, it's amazing, because now too you do a great job, a fantastic job of enlisting the people around you to jump in, rather than the whole dancing around it. I mean, the habit of dancing around it, whether you know or don't know.
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's jump into a couple of sets of questions, both from the leader and then from the other person's perspective. So as a leader, one of the things I like to ask team members is, hey, how confident are you from 1 to 100 in what we just talked about? And what I love about this is, and I really don't give a shit what their number is. If they say 7 or 97, that's not what I get all excited about. What I then ask is, oh, okay, great. So if you're X percentage confident in this,
7%.
Yeah, 7%. Okay, well, what's in that 7%?
Yeah.
So now it's helping them to connect. Also, I'm getting a little bit of a back brief, so they go, oh yeah, you said to do this, and then they heard something that actually wasn't what I meant, or perhaps they heard something that I did say, and I was like, oh gosh, no, I meant that a different way. So it's a great chance to get a little bit of a back brief from them on what they're thinking. And then I can just simply say, okay, what's in that other 93% in this case? And that's where I get to hear from people, oh, well, I don't know what this means, or I'm not sure how to do that, or I don't know who to reach out to for such and such. Okay, awesome. Now we can start to choose which of those pieces to play with. And I'm getting clearer about where that person is recognizing that, oh gosh, I don't have this information, and it's really actionable. Now we know how to close the gap.
Well, what's really powerful about that too is that whole clarity and confidence go hand in hand.
Yeah.
If you were to change the question on a scale of 1 to 100, how clear are you? That's actually a tougher question to answer versus on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you? Yeah. Because now we get to tap into that, that inner knowing and the sense and the feeling someone's having, like, oh, 7% confident, and then get the clarity from there. Yeah. Versus if you change those questions around.
Yeah. And I know the 7 was really low. I've never had anybody actually say something that low. Most of the time, people.
Here's where it's awesome, though. What's fantastic, though, is the 7 gives clarity. That initial answer is really.
Well, hang on a second. 'Cause where I'm going, though, is if somebody says, oh, I'm 65% confident in what's going on, then what that does is, again, it gives a great spot to play with. Okay, well, what are you basing that 65% on? And then another question to ask is, well, what would it take to move that from a 65 to an 85? And I like that question, because now that person says to me, man, if you can describe this, or you can lay out a little more of that, I'm going to feel a lot better about exactly what you're wanting. Okay, awesome. Now I've got some real tight targets to hit. And then I can ask again, okay, so how are you feeling now? Oh yeah, definitely 85. In fact, I'm even 90%.
Yeah.
That's plenty to give them a high five and they can get off running, working on this thing.
Yeah. Well, you're inviting more of that exchange rather than, again, a lot of leaders, what do you said that generals don't whisper?
Yeah, generals don't whisper. Generals don't recommend is another. Yeah.
Well, there's something really important because that's relevant for all of you. All of you as entrepreneurs and business leaders, you often are completely underestimating to what extent people turn to you and listen closely to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so I would say you're not whispering either. And this is in your everyday performance. People are listening closely to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so coming back to, I love that first start in that language. So really focusing on some of your language that you're habitually using it, starting to take that out, and then starting to use more clear language. That's a whole set of tools for, tangible tools for you to use. And now this piece on questions helps because you said it earlier, like making assumptions. There are lots of ways that we habitually create confusion.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we don't have that confidence is we're making assumptions and we're not asking questions.
I actually did this morning already with one of our team members. I asked her to gin up a starting point for something, and she just wrote back and said, how exactly are you defining gin up? And I laughed and I was like, oh my gosh, silly me. To me, that's language I've used. I don't know where I got it from. Just I've used to like, hey, let's get something going. And I just wrote back, oh, sorry, my bad. That just means let's start something.
Yeah.
So,
thankfully, she knows to ask questions.
She does, which is that spot of when people do ask questions. It's so critical that you, as the leader, are saying, hey, it's great you're asking questions to help clarify this, so that we're on track with what you know and where you do want additional information.
It's worth repeating. I want to make sure you heard what Ivan said. He didn't say, so what we're encouraging you to practice is not to say, that's a great question.
Yeah. Even if it is.
Even if it's a great question.
Yeah.
He's encouraging you to acknowledge they're asking questions, don't acknowledge the question, acknowledge the behavior of them asking questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
And so phrases for you to use, hey, I'm so glad you're asking, or asking questions is how we keep getting clear. There are different phrases that you can use so that you're reinforcing that your team members are in the practice of asking questions.
Yeah, and that you're good with it, because a lot of times people will ask a question and they're doing a little bit of the
wait to see.
Let's see how this goes. Let's see if they're cool cat or if they turn into the Incredible Hulk and get all nutty about it. Because if you do the latter, people are not going to ask questions.
Here's the other way that you're going to influence the people around you to ask more questions is at the end of whatever, maybe it's in a town hall or it's in a weekly team meeting. Do not say, any questions?
No.
Instead, say, what questions do you have?
Yeah.
Or here's another one. I want to hear 2 questions. What are your questions?
Yeah.
I'll put a number. I'll advise leaders, put a number on it. And then that way they follow through and they make sure that they get at least 2 questions from the team. And of course, once the first person asks, and then you're saying, oh, so glad you're bringing that up.
Yeah.
John, blah, 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 blah. And then you go from there. Oh yeah, they're not hesitant anymore. You're priming the pump so that they're in the practice of asking questions.
I love that. Another thing I've done with folks is to say, hey, now we're going to go back and review the parts of this. Where do you want to start? What parts of this was least clear? Where do you want to put more attention so that everyone in here is getting more information, more clarity? Because certainly something was left out of some piece. So I like to make that, you hear that's just kind of like a little, oh yeah, certainly something was left out, or I'm confident I didn't communicate some piece of this as fully as I intended to.
Yeah.
That's a great way to just lower the bar so people don't feel like they're going to the boss and saying, hey, you just pooched describing this part of the conversation and we're confused. You're the only one who knows what the hell is going on. It just makes it a lot easier for people to go, yeah, part 3 where you talked about the delivery time schedule, let's go back there. Okay, great. Yeah, so glad that you're bringing that up. Let's jump back in. What questions do you have for somebody?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and so many, all of you, entrepreneurs, business professionals, you are daily, weekly, you are distributing responsibilities or handing off tasks, delegating. And when you're doing that, again, a habit that, because the combination of the language, habitual language, as well as the not asking questions in those exchanges, is that there's a lot of confusion that's accidentally created. Yeah. And then, of course, hesitation and delay and all these other things in terms of human performance on the heels of it. And so when you are distributing responsibilities or assigning tasks or delegating something, really important question, especially if it's new, maybe it's a new team member, maybe it's a contractor that you're working with, or where the responsibility is new for the team member, that after you're handing this off, okay, Ivan, you now own this. Really important questions. What part of this are you really confident in? And what part of this do you anticipate is going to be sticky or is going to be challenging?
Yeah.
Or I'll say, what part of this are you feeling really solid and confident about? What part of this are you concerned about?
Yeah. Yeah. I like both of those sets of questions. Those are fantastic ways to get people so that they're sharing. Also, hear how Kathy asked a question. The most important thing for leaders to do, though, is to ask that question and then stop talking. Just give that person a minute, because they're likely, I certainly can go back in the Wayback Machine and remember times where my manager or somebody who was important that I worked with asked me a question about where I wasn't clear on something or I wasn't confident in something. And I remember thinking to myself, shit, I'm not so sure I want to tell my boss I'm confused as heck on this part of this part. And sometimes there's that little internal conversation. And so by asking the question as a manager and then just, what part of this do you want to focus on? So what part do you want to
it's asking the question and then sorry.
And then, my point though is, ask the question and then just turning away, giving them a second, drink some water, giving them a second to get right with themselves so that they can jump into, let's go into section 4. So one other thing that I'm sure everyone who's hearing this and that we certainly are running into is where the situations where there's a standard for something. So if there's a standard operating procedure for how to get a particular thing done, you get to lean on that. So you can tell somebody, hey, make sure you're doing this just like we get set up in our SOP around item X.
Yes.
What I also like to do is to say, hey, we're going to start with that as a starting point. We're going to make some minor tweaks. So now, for me, it's crystal clear. We're going to make some tweaks. I get to say out loud.
And not we. You.
Well, we as a business, absolutely. So I'm going to say, hey, we're going to make some tweaks to this.
You and I.
Please go ahead, and I literally did this morning. Please take our SOP for this, put that into a document, and then we're gonna figure out the changes. Go ahead and get that started and send that over to me. And so that way, it's you own this piece, I own that piece, and this is what it's going to look like when we're done. I'm leaning though on a great established starting point.
Yes, and referring to SOPs or processes or policies or protocol, whatever is established and clear, referring to those and leaning on them for sure. And you probably saw me too. I was prompting Ivan on the we. Even if you're speaking one-on-one, here it's mind-blowing what a difference you and I is from we.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking to one of our team members, we're going to build on this, or we're going to change this. Amy might think that's Kathy and Ivan.
Yeah.
Not her. And so definitely this is why we, our activating language framework within the Wingspan system, it is strongly encouraged that you get really deliberate with you, I, and we. I continue to hear from leaders all over the place that they were strongly encouraged to say we, to build a team and to have that team spirit.
We're inclusive, and
there has been so much really awful training and feedback that leaders have been given over the years. And that's one of them. And so much more clear, and then everyone's much more confident
Yep.
when it's a you and I
Yep.
versus a we.
Yeah. So on the receiving end, so if you're getting something from a manager and they're not making it clear, this is a great spot to ask some
Or from a
questions.
customer even.
Yeah.
We're getting something from a customer.
Well, let's start with the team member first. That way we're getting from the manager side and then from the team member side. So if you're getting something from your manager and it's not clear, that's a great spot to start to ask some questions. Hey, hold on, let's go back a minute. And here's one of the phrases that I encourage folks to make a note of, because this is where you're creating the safety for yourself to jump back in. So your manager, depending on who they are, I've had managers who haven't always liked being questioned. It's a great spot to point out that you're asking questions to make sure that you're hitting the mark. So I've learned to say, hey, let's go back to a couple pieces in here. I want to make sure I understand what good looks like, so I'm delivering exactly what you're expecting.
Yeah.
When I say that, now it's really hard for a manager to go, no, forget that shit. You're not asking any questions, buddy. Just go out and do it. I've already indicated I'm not
I want to
clear.
give you exactly what you want. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so many managers I've worked with, when I say that, they just sit right up in the chair of a, heck yeah, let me make sure you know exactly what to do so you're nailing this thing on the head.
Also, here's the other thing that comes across when you say that. It's your confidence.
Oh, yeah.
You are very clear that you're asking these questions for this reason.
Yeah.
I want to give you exactly what you expect.
Yeah.
And when you're saying that before you ask the question, your confidence is coming through. You might not even realize it, how evident it was when you just had that quick illustration.
And for everyone at home, the reason I use that language is because it's not about me. I want to know more about this job. I'm not clear on this piece because that's my personal jam. If I make it about what the other person wants, so what in the hell is my leader wanting to get out of this? What is the team hoping to accomplish? And I can really dive into that piece. Now it's not about me feeling better. Now it's about, hey, manager, I want to make sure I'm giving you exactly what you're wanting. And so now I'm linking my getting clarity to them getting what they want. So that's a subtle piece. I just want to shine a little bit of light on that, though.
Yeah. And side benefit, you feel better also.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of that, again, going back to that clarity and confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Looking at some of our notes, some of the other things that shows up is when people do ask questions, they tend to ask pretty poor questions, and those get into yes and no's. So they say, hey, do you want this? Or sometimes they'll say, do you want A or do you want B? And the manager's thinking, actually, I didn't want
Either
of those things. I want F.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where sometimes it can be really valuable. Sometimes, almost all the time, it's going to be very valuable to get out of that is it A or B mindset and say, hey, it sounded like you're looking for this kind of a thing when you talked about X. What is it you actually want?
Yeah. It's in the Wingspan Performance System. Another core framework within the whole system is what we call advancing questions. And this is where you're in the habit. I know for a fact you are in the habit because every single leader that I have worked with over the past 23 years in every organization has the habit of asking a bunch of yes or no questions. Yeah. You are in the habit of asking a bunch of yes or no questions. It's causing confusion. It's slowing you down. They're highly inefficient. And you actually don't come across confident, and you're super slow to actually create that clarity.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that we in the advancing questions, take 95% of those yes or no questions and throw them out and instead switch over. And those either or questions too, they limit. Yeah. So if you're also in the habit, again, unless you're this really strange anomaly, in thousands and thousands of CEOs and business owners that I've worked with, you're in the habit of asking those either or. Is sometimes we're not conveying our competence. Certainly not our confidence when we're in the habit of those either or the yes or no questions.
Yeah.
And so switching them over to what we call advancing questions, and starting with start with a what or how, for example,
those two, it's like the what and how are the best places to start. Hey, what part of this are you not clear on? How else could we talk about this so that you're walking away more confident in this?
How are you how are you considering starting on this? Or yeah. So that's gonna help. That does wonders in terms of as soon as leaders start to ask those advancing questions, again, their confidence comes through because now they're not operating out of habit, out of autopilot. They're thoughtful and they're creating that clarity. They're clear and they're creating that clarity because they're deliberate about it.
Here's what I bet every person has heard, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a good bit of interviews, and so many questions are yes/no questions. And then the person, actually, so many questions are either yes/no questions. The second thing is questions are just run on. It's I call it the Big Mac of questions. It's question. And you just put two buns on either side and some sauce and give it to the person. And I've literally heard the guests on podcasts say out loud, which question do you want me to answer first? And Harvey's like, holy freaking moly, dude, if you're the interviewer, that would be a giant splashing sign of your questions could use some work. So for all of you, you're probably used to asking questions like, hey, is this good? And that's too big because the person that you're asking that of is probably they'll probably pause. You're undoubtedly going to see them pause because this is what's going probably on inside of the brain. Well, this part of it's really good. Well, this part was way the hell off track. Yeah, I like that. This thing is missing. I can't believe it's not in there. And so all these voices are going on in their heads, and that's how come they're probably pausing. Whereas if you say, hey, I'm understanding this to be the case. Where is this on track, or what else would help this be better? It's a tighter question. You're going to get much more specific information and much more quickly. But then, of course, you can flip it the other way. Hey, what's on track? And then what's off track?
Yeah, for sure. Which, by the way, when you are asking someone what's off track, or hey, here's my plan. Where do you see it's going to fall down? When you're the one in charge of asking the clear questions that invite someone to find the holes, again, that's that confidence coming through. And so again, they go hand in hand together.
Pivoting a tiny bit, taking this question concept and then applying it internally. One of the questions that, it took me a little while because I'm a slow burn sometimes. One of the questions I've used to help myself prep is, what might the other person not know? So often it's easy, and I've done this so many times, and it's just frustrated myself to the point where now I ask myself this question: what might the other person not know? And when I ask myself that, it helps me back up a step, get out of my assumptions, not 100%, it helps me get out of at least some of them, or hopefully most of them, so that I can go, oh gosh, if I'm handing this off to Steph, what might she not know? Oh, she probably doesn't understand this. She might not be on this email trail. She might not have this historical knowledge of the situation to know this is what's going to be key when we do these things. So now it just helps me back up a step, pull out of this one little message and go back to, oh my gosh, how else do I want to season this or add some things or trim some things so that she could walk away as clear and as confident as possible in how to execute that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to draw this line that up in our conversation today, we talked about activating language and how that is key. First of all, habitual language, and then instead activating language, how that's key for creating clarity, cutting the confusion, and then, of course, building confidence. We talked about advancing questions and how those are also just so essential in terms of accomplishing this. And the illustrations that we used were mostly you with other people. Now, it's really important to take notice that Ivan is shifting gears. Anytime that you're interacting with other people, we call that your outside game. Ivan's just shift gears, and this is really important. Now we're turning it to our inside game.
Yeah.
And I used one inside game example earlier. So the inside game is, how are you communicating with yourself?
Yep.
How are you thinking and talking to yourself? That's where all of your performance is coming from. it's the most important place to practice these things.
Yeah.
Is with yourself, actually, not with other people. And so this piece here, Ivan, you talk about how you're using advancing questions with yourself.
Yeah.
I will also, I'll give you guys a couple of examples. I will also ask myself, what am I not saying out loud?
Yep, solid.
And that's been super helpful, because some of you might know, I'm super impatient. And so
She's not kidding.
And so I'll definitely have I'll make assumptions, and I'm will tend to not slow myself down enough.
Yeah.
So what am I not saying out loud?
Let me jump in real fast.
Yeah.
That impatience is probably insanely common for the small business owners, for the entrepreneurs, for the people who have huge amounts of responsibility, because you have got this, let's get some shit done. And you have this bias. Pressure, bias for action, high responsibility, all those things rolled in a beautiful little burrito that you eat every day.
Yes.
And you're probably thinking, let's go. And then it's a easy spot to get a couple steps ahead of where other people are. And then I've done this, then it's confusion and frustration and WTF and all those pieces without recognizing, oh, dang it, I accidentally contributed to this because I didn't slow down. I didn't consider what they know or didn't know. And if I had done that, it would have made this so much easier. An easy place to start with squeeze of a little piece of it. An easy place to start is I'll tell everybody I reread probably 95% of my emails, even short emails internally. I'll write them, and then I'll work to go back and say, okay, how clear is this? Where can I tighten this up? What might they already know that I can realize, oh, geez, I can just chop that bit out, because if I'm telling them stuff they already know, they're probably going to read it and go to autopilot and be like, snoozer, and just whatever, not actually read it the way I want them to be. And then also, hey, what have I not said that I know is important about this situation that I want to make sure I'm bringing forward more clearly or more completely?
Yeah. So when you're rereading your emails, you're asking yourself some questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the most, I'm going to say, the best places. Well, what leaders say. So as leaders are learning activating language, and they're putting these things into practice to build confidence and higher performance within their teams, they're rereading their emails. They're taking out all the bubble wrap. They're taking out all the illegal words.
Or at least the vast majority.
And that's where they really get some good traction and start to create some momentum in their practice, so that they're getting out of autopilot. I want to go back though to the questions that we're asking ourselves, because I mean, you might be in the same exact place I am. You talked about entrepreneurs, business owners, really so many of the leaders we work with, whether they are CEO, the business owner, or they work in a big organization, they act and think like CEOs. And entrepreneurs of their own business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like me, I am constantly in new territory where I do not know what the F I'm doing. And so questions that I'm just constantly learning. And like sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. And so some questions that I'll ask myself is I'll stop and I'll say, okay, what parts of this do I know for sure? And all right, well, what parts of this are similar to something I've done already, or similar to something that we've been doing within the business? Because when I'm looking at the thing, I am absolutely not confident. I am perceiving the challenge to be really fucking high, and my current ability to be very low. And I'm absolutely teetering and dipping in and out of the stress zone. And so asking myself those questions is how I actually get myself out of the stress zone into the performance zone, and I start to chunk it up. And asking those questions as I'm chunking it up, and I'm getting clear on what I do know, and getting clear on what I don't know. And getting clear on, I'm not even sure if I know what I don't know. Like, I will still chunk it up. And that clarity within myself is how I, am able to get myself a little more stable and stop freaking out. Because I do that, I would say, on a weekly basis. And then I'm able to get traction. And the big part that we don't talk about a lot of times, though, I'm able to see myself and my abilities clearly. Because I start to, when it's big and overwhelming, or the list is, we talk about that was just this morning, like, oh my gosh, my list is so big. And when it's just big, it's this big amoeba and it's overwhelming, because it's not clear. How I see myself is not clear.
Good. What I want to play with as we're heading towards wrapping this up is for everyone to also remember that, because I've seen this. I had a leader last week who said on the call, I want to be 100% clear. How, like, buddy, if you're 100% clear on almost anything, you probably spend too much damn time on this. So I like to use the, hey, what's good enough, so that I can proceed. I can proceed even just to the next.
They even do a better job of that. We like our Wingspan team does a better job, instead of what's good enough, because that's still fuzzy. We use percentages. So I've been will, or I will with the team. I'm shooting for a 90%.
Yeah.
I'm shooting for get 90% on this deliverable, and then bring it to me.
Yeah.
And then you and I will walk through it. Then we'll shoot for percentages, and that is more clear in helping people to know what good looks like.
What we also do, and this is something I encourage everyone that I would make a note of, is we'll identify it by phases. Hey, for this phase, we want to get to where we're 90% clarity, so that we can be rocking and rolling. And then sometimes people will say, well, what happens when we get to step 7? We'll figure that shit out when we get to step 6, because right now we're at step 3. And as long as we're good enough on step 3, let's kick butt on step 3. Now, sometimes there are things where people will say, well, I want at least some kind of vision or direction. And I like to compare that to the hurricane charts, where, it's probably going to be here. In reality, it could be anywhere inside of this cone. This is ish for the direction of what it's going to be. And then that way people can at least proceed knowing, okay, this is ish. This is, I'm 60% confident this is where this is going to be.
Yeah.
So I now know how much perhaps time and energy to put into this, or how much effort, so that I can hit the mark enough, or be ready enough to adjust, or to have something to build on.
Yeah, it's clear enough. It's like you're making it clear that we currently see it as this, and we know full well that as the team works in that direction, it's gonna shape up, and then it's gonna move a little bit.
Yeah. And that's okay. I like to say that out loud to folks of, we're moving in this direction, and we're going to figure those things out.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we've talked about removing some bubble wrap. So we're talking about
an illegal word.
Yep. We're talking about creating clarity that's often connected very, very tightly to creating confidence, both in ourselves and in others. So we've talked about removing bubble wrap, removing.
And there's a cheat. So in fact, we'll make sure that there's a link for you to download our bubble wrap cheat sheet. It's a perfect place to start immediately and raise your game and raise your performance for your confidence.
Free. Everyone's favorite four-letter F word, free. So that's a great place to start. Also, watch the questions. Watch the questions with other people. Watch the questions with yourselves, so that you're asking more thoughtful, more deliberate questions that have an outcome that you can actually utilize and do something with. Including challenging yourself with, hey, what am I not saying? Or what might this person not know, so that you're helping them understand the situation better.
Yeah. I love it. That's what leaders continue to really love and value about the Wingspan approach, is that tools to immediately deploy and take advantage of and capitalize on for your performance. And I said it earlier, I'm really excited for you all to experience and feel that confidence as you continue to create clarity within yourself and with the people around you.
So encourage all you to, as you're working through the day, a couple of easy things. One, reread some emails. You're going to know which ones. It might not be all of them. fine. Start somewhere though. Reread at least, I like to say at least 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. That's a good starting point. When it comes to verbal exchanges, because so often people will say, okay, yeah, I can do this in email because I have time to write it and then think about it and ponder, or perhaps go take a break and work on something else and then come back. In conversations, though, it's just pow, 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 and all of a sudden, crap, I said a bunch of stuff that I didn't really intend to say. So what I encourage people to do is prepare for those conversations. Come in with some notes, have yourself a little bit of a cheat sheet to say exactly what you want to say. What are some of the questions you want to be
I say
prepared?
sound bites.
Yeah, sound bites.
Little
like
bullet
that.
points or sound bites.
Yeah.
And so when you're deciding ahead of time some of those phrases or key statements you want to say, it will help you not out of habit and autopilot say, I think, and we need to, and we should.
Phrases and questions. So the dynamic duo there, activating language and your advancing questions, that's gonna you're gonna feel so much better. I know, because I still do this myself. When I go into really hard conversations, I prep specific notes and specific language. So
Yeah, I want to say one last thing as we're wrapping, and so that you're cutting the confusion and building confidence by leading with clarity. Eliminate the I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So as you all know, this is leading without the BS, unapologetic, unfiltered, unstoppable performance, and that's what we want for you. We'll see you next time.